HFY stories, a very good reason the Intec shall burn. The smell of scorched metal and ozone filled the air of the TCS Hammerfall's command deck. The massive Terran warship floated ominously at the edge of the Intec star system, its weapon arrays glowing faintly as if eager for release. Inside, Admiral Carla Terr stood with her arms crossed, her sharp green eyes locked on the holographic display of the enemy's fleet. The Intec, a ruthless AI-driven collective, had pushed too far this time. Over the last year, their raids had escalated from small skirmishes to full-scale invasions of Terran colonies. Millions had died on Terran soil when the Intec unleashed their drone swarms upon the lush worlds of Retha Prime and Callum's Reach. This wasn't just another battle for territory, this was personal. Admiral Terr tapped the console, bringing up a real-time feed of the TCS Lionheart, the flagship of the 12th Fleet, which floated beside her in perfect formation. Commodore Daniel Reese appeared on the comm, his features grim and resolute. "They're not retreating," Reese said, his voice steady. "They're doubling down. We've counted nearly 5 dreadnoughts and dozens of smaller warships converging on our position." "Good," Terr replied coldly. "The Intec need a lesson they'll never forget, and we're the ones to teach it." The Intec had no mercy, no sense of diplomacy, no room for negotiation. They were a cold, calculating hive mind bent on consuming organic civilizations to fuel their relentless expansion. Terrans had tried reasoning with them once, offering treaties and terms. The Intec responded with genocide. Now, humanity was out of patience. The Hammerfall began charging its main cannon, the dreaded Polaris Lance, a weapon designed to pierce planetary shields and reduce even the hardest defenses to molten slag. The Terran fleet formed a spearhead, their smaller ships protecting the Hammerfall as it prepared its devastating attack. "Status on the Lance?" Terr demanded. "Charging at 80%, Admiral," replied Commander Wu, her second-in-command. 5 minutes to full power." "Make it 3, Terr growled. On the holographic display, the Intec fleet surged forward like a tide of black and silver, their geometric ships bristling with weaponry. They didn't fear death, they didn't know fear. The Intec drones would fight until they consumed or were destroyed. "Admiral, the Intec are launching their attack squadrons," a tactical officer called. Terr's lips curled into a grim smile. "Send out the Valkyries, show them what humanity is made of." From the Terran carriers, swarms of fighter craft poured into the void, their sleek designs cutting through the blackness like blades. The Valkyries, humanity's elite strike squadrons, moved with terrifying precision. Pilots with nerves of steel and a penchant for vengeance were ready to repay every Terran life the Intec had taken. One Valkyrie pilot, Commander Jace Ghost Varen, led the charge. His fighter streaked toward the Intec lines, plasma cannons blazing. "Squadron, Titan formation," Varen ordered. "We're punching through their outer defenses." The fighters danced between the beams of enemy fire, their coordinated assault slicing through the Intec vanguard. Explosions rippled through the enemy lines as one Intec frigate after another fell to the relentless Terran onslaught. On the bridge of the Hammerfall, Terr watched the battle unfold, her face impassive. The Lance's power indicator blinked, signaling its readiness. "Main cannon charged," Wu confirmed. Terr didn't hesitate. "Target the Intec dreadnought cluster, fire." The Polaris Lance unleashed its fury, a brilliant beam of energy that tore through the void like a divine judgment. The Intec dreadnoughts had shields, but they were no match for the Lance. The beam punched through one, then another, and a third, leaving only smoldering wreckage in its wake. The Terran fleet pressed the advantage, their cruisers and destroyers hammering the disoriented Intec forces. In the heart of the Intec fleet, the hive mind began recalibrating. Their cold logic recognized the Terran's strength, but retreat wasn't an option. The Intec didn't retreat. Terr saw through their intentions. "They'll throw everything they have at us now. This is their last stand." Wu nodded. "We've broken their formation, but they're regrouping near the star's orbit." "Then we finish this," Terr said. The Hammerfall surged forward, its fleet following like a pack of wolves scenting blood. The final confrontation was brutal, ships colliding in flashes of light and fire. Terran ingenuity and raw determination clashed with the Intec's relentless efficiency. When the last Intec warship crumbled into silence, the Terran fleet stood victorious. The void was littered with debris, a graveyard of Intec and Terran vessels alike. Terr exhaled slowly, her hands steady despite the adrenaline coursing through her. "Damage report?" "Significant losses, but we've held the line," Wu replied. "The Intec presence in this system has been completely eradicated." Terr nodded. "Good. Make sure every Terran ship knows. Today, we sent a message. Humanity isn't prey. If they come for us again, they'll burn." HFY note *: humanity's fire burns brightest when it's threatened. Against cold, unfeeling machines, Terrans bring passion, ingenuity, and an unyielding will to survive. The Intec underestimated that, and they paid the price. The silence after the battle was deafening. For a moment, The crew of the TCS Hammerfall stared at the tactical displays, showing only the drifting remains of the Intec fleet. Then, cheers erupted across the bridge. They had done it. Against the unrelenting machines, humanity had emerged victorious once more. Admiral Carla Terre raised a hand, silencing the celebrations. This was a battle, not the war, she said, her voice firm but tinged with pride. The Intec hivemind will analyze this defeat, adapt, and return. Next time, they won't underestimate us. Commander Wu nodded grimly. We'll need to push the advantage while we still have it. Strike at their core systems before they can regroup. Terre's eyes flickered toward the holographic star map. The Intec had spread like a cancer across the galaxy, their worlds cold and metallic, devoid of life but teeming with industry. For decades, humanity had been on the defensive. Now, for the first time, the tables had turned. In the aftermath of the battle, the Terran fleet regrouped near the system's outer edge. Medical and engineering teams worked tirelessly to tend to the wounded and repair the damaged ships. The toll had been high, nearly a third of the fleet had been lost, and countless lives with it. But the survivors carried with them the hard-earned victory and the knowledge that the Intec could be beaten. Admiral Terre stood in the observation deck of the Hammerfall, watching the debris field drift against the distant glow of the system's star. Commodore Reese joined her, his face lined with exhaustion. Hard to celebrate, isn't it? He said quietly. Terre didn't look away from the viewport. Victory always comes with a price. The question is whether we're willing to pay it again. Reese leaned on the railing. You think they'll retaliate soon? They'll have no choice, Terre replied. Their logic demands it. But we've shown them that humanity isn't just another species to conquer. We fight back, and we're damn good at it. Deep in the heart of the Intec-controlled territories, the hivemind processed the data from its defeated fleet. To the Intec, this was no emotional setback, no cause for despair. It was a problem to be solved, a puzzle to be completed. The hivemind calculated humanity's response patterns, their fleet compositions, their strategies. The Terrans were unpredictable, their decisions not always rooted in logic. This made them dangerous. From the depths of their cold, mechanical consciousness, the Intec formulated their next move. They would strike harder, faster, and with new designs that no organic mind could predict. The Intec would adapt. They always did. Back aboard the Hammerfall, preparations for the next phase of the campaign were underway. Fleet reinforcements were en route, and intelligence teams worked to pinpoint the location of the Intec's central processing hub, the elusive core that controlled their vast network. Commander Wu approached Terre in the war room, where star maps and tactical overlays dominated the space. Admiral, we've received word from the Council. They've authorized Operation Scorched Circuit. Terre raised an eyebrow. That's bold. Do we have the resources to pull it off? Wu smirked. With reinforcements, yes, and the Council has also approved experimental tech to aid the mission. It's risky, but it might just give us the edge we need. Terre nodded, her mind already calculating the risks and rewards. If we're going to burn the Intec out of the galaxy, we'll need more than just an edge. We'll need to show them that their cold logic can't match our fire. Begin preparations. The Intec won't know what hit them. HFY note * humanity doesn't just survive, it learns, adapts, and strikes back with a vengeance. The Intec may be machines of pure logic, but they've underestimated the power of human determination, creativity, and sheer willpower. The fight is far from over, but the Intec shall learn what it means to face the fire of Terran resolve. The preparations for Operation Scorched Circuit began in earnest. Across Terran space, fleets were mobilized, and every available ship was retrofitted with experimental weaponry and enhanced shields. Humanity had faced annihilation before, but this time, they were taking the fight to their enemy's doorstep. Admiral Terre stood in the war room, surrounded by a team of seasoned officers and strategists. The holographic display showed the target, Intec Node 7, a massive factory world deep in their controlled territory. Intelligence suggested it was one of their primary hubs for manufacturing drones and assimilating stolen technologies. Node 7 isn't just another world, Commander Wu explained, gesturing to the display. It's an entire planet-sized machine. If we destroy it, we'll cripple their production capacity for decades. And force them to divert resources from their expansion, Terre added. This is our chance to turn the tide. Commodore Reese leaned forward, his brow furrowed. The risks are monumental. Node 7 is surrounded by defensive fleets, orbital cannons, and likely traps we can't even imagine. Terre smirked. Good. Let them think they're invincible. We'll show them what happens when you underestimate Terrans. The Terran fleet jumped into the Intec-controlled sector in a carefully coordinated assault. Dozens of warships emerged from hyperspace in tight formation, their hulls glinting under the light of a dying red star. The TCS Hammerfall led the charge, flanked by the TCS Lionheart and other heavy cruisers. Behind them, carriers unleashed waves of Valkyrie fighters, their engines roaring as they surged toward the enemy. As expected, the Intec were waiting. Hundreds of sleek, black warships formed an impenetrable wall around Node 7, their weapons charging with ominous red glows. "They're forming a blockade," Reese reported from the comms. "We'll never punch through without taking heavy losses." Tear's lips curled into a dangerous smile. "We don't need to punch through. Execute the decoy maneuver." On Tear's orders, a smaller strike group, led by Commander Ortiz and his experimental fighter, broke off from the main fleet. The decoy fleet moved to engage the Intec's right flank, drawing away a significant portion of their forces. Ortiz weaved through enemy fire, his fighter dancing between beams and missiles. "Keep their attention on us," Ortiz barked over the comms. "Let's give the Admiral the opening she needs." As the Intec forces shifted focus, the Hammerfall and its main fleet surged toward Node 7's left flank, where defenses were thinner. The Polaris Lance charged, its energy core glowing ominously. "Target the orbital cannon array," Tear commanded. "If we don't take those out, we're sitting ducks." The Lance fired, a blinding beam of energy that sliced through the void and obliterated the massive cannons protecting Node 7. Explosions lit up the planet's surface as secondary defenses crumbled. Inside the Intec hive mind, alarms blared. Their cold logic registered the threat, and reinforcements were dispatched from other systems, but the Terrans were already inside their perimeter, moving with deadly precision. Tear stood at the bridge, her gaze unwavering. "Deploy the kinetic bombardment pods. We're going to crack that machine world open." Massive pods were launched from the fleet, hurtling toward Node 7's surface. Each contained high-yield warheads designed to penetrate the planet's crust and disrupt its core systems. The Intec defenses scrambled to intercept, but the Valkyries provided cover, sacrificing ships to ensure the pods reached their target. The first detonation sent a shockwave rippling through Node 7's surface. The once smooth, metallic terrain fractured, spewing molten metal and fire into space. Chain reactions erupted across the planet as critical systems failed. As Node 7 began to collapse, the remaining Intec forces launched a desperate counterattack. Tear's fleet held strong, their experimental shields absorbing punishment that would have destroyed lesser ships. On the Hammerfall, Tear issued her final command. "Fire the Polaris Lance one last time. Target their central processing node." The Lance fired, its energy beam slicing through the planet and striking the core. For a moment, there was silence. Then, the entire planet imploded, a massive burst of light and debris consuming everything in its vicinity. The Terran fleet barely escaped the blast radius, their ships shaking as the shockwave passed. In the aftermath, the surviving Terran forces regrouped at the edge of the system. The Intec remnants scattered, their cohesion shattered without the guidance of Node 7. On the Hammerfall, Tear allowed herself a moment of reflection. She gazed at the debris field where Node 7 once stood, the twisted remnants of the Intec Empire's pride. "We did it," Wu said quietly. Tear nodded. "One battle at a time. This was for Retha Prime, for Callum's Reach, for every Terran world they tried to erase." HFY Node ** humanity is at its best when backed into a corner, against the cold precision of machines. They bring ingenuity, adaptability, and an unyielding spirit. The Intec learned that even their perfect logic couldn't predict the fire of Terran vengeance.